What if I told you that one of the Bible's holiest sites may have finally been confirmed by archaeology? Hebron, the city mentioned in Scripture as the home of Abraham, may hold secrets hidden beneath the sands of time for millennia. But what was actually found? Does the evidence prove that this is, in fact, the city of the patriarch of faith? Get ready, because what you discover today could change everything you believe about biblical history and archaeology. Since ancient times, Hebron has been a central point in biblical narratives. It was there that Abraham made his home, there that he negotiated the purchase of the cave of Machpelah to bury Sarah, his wife. But what was left of this sacred city? Over the centuries, ruins, ancient inscriptions, and evidence of ancient civilizations have been found. But the question that remains is, were archaeologists able to confirm the existence of the city of Abraham? Or are we facing one of the greatest mysteries in biblical history? Imagine for a moment the possibility of us stepping on the same lands that Abraham did. Could archaeology be about to reveal one of the most impressive proofs of the veracity of Scripture? Or does Hebron, as we know it today, hide an even bigger secret? Many theories have emerged over the years, some pointing to surprising discoveries, others suggesting that this may not be exactly the same city described in the Bible. What we know is that the remains found challenge everything we thought we knew about that sacred site. And do you believe that the Bible is about to be confirmed by science? Or are there still more mysteries to be revealed about this ancient city? Leave your opinion in the comments and stay until the end, because we will explore every detail of the discoveries that could prove, once and for all, that Hebron is the true city of Abraham, and what the researchers found may be even more impressive than we imagined. But before we reveal the most impressive discoveries, I need to make an important request. If you, like me, believe that these biblical mysteries need to be explored and shared, that sacred history cannot be forgotten, and that archaeology is bringing to light secrets that could change everything we know, then leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel. This helps us to continue investigating the lost places of the Bible and bringing you increasingly revealing content. Every day, new evidence emerges, and much of it goes unnoticed. Governments, institutions, and even powerful groups may not be interested in publicizing these findings, but here the truth will be told. You are part of this quest to reveal biblical mysteries, and together we can uncover what has been hidden for millennia. So turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of the next videos. Because what we have to reveal goes beyond anything you've ever heard about Hebron. And now, let's get straight to the point. What did archaeologists really find in this city? Does the evidence confirm that Abraham was here, or is there something even more surprising hidden in the ruins of Hebron? What you will see now may leave you speechless. Hebron. A name that echoes through the pages of the Bible and carries with it the weight of sacred history. Since ancient times, this city has been a central point for the patriarchs of the faith, a place where divine promises were made, and where the history of humanity was shaped by events that to this day intrigue historians, archaeologists, and biblical scholars. But does archaeological evidence confirm the veracity of this sacred site? Is Hebron, as we know it today, the same city where Abraham lived, where he walked, where he buried his wife Sarah, and where one of the greatest biblical mysteries unfolds? According to the Bible, Hebron was the place chosen by Abraham to establish his home. In Genesis 13:18 we read, "Then Abram moved his tents and went to live by the oak groves of Mamre, which are in Hebron, and there he built an altar to the Lord." This verse not only places Hebron at the center of Abraham's journey, but also indicates that this location had immeasurable spiritual importance. Abraham not only lived there, but built an altar, making Hebron a place of worship and direct connection with God. But has this city survived the test of time? Do the ancient stones still bear traces of the patriarch's presence? The importance of Hebron in the Judeo-Christian tradition is undeniable. It was there that Abraham bought the cave of Machpelah to bury Sarah, one of the most emblematic moments in the biblical narrative. This event is detailed in Genesis 23, where Abraham negotiates with the Hittites to secure a resting place for his wife. And this was not a simple transaction. It was a milestone. The Cave of Machpelah became the first piece of land in the Promised Land officially acquired by a Hebrew, a physical testament to God's promise to Abraham that his descendants would inherit that land. But does this cave really exist? And if there is, are the remains of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and their wives still there? The historical and archaeological records about Hebron are intriguing. The modern city of Hebron is situated in the West Bank and is home to the so-called Tomb of the Patriarchs, a site revered for thousands of years as the supposed location of Machpelah's cave. What is impressive is that this place has been protected and venerated by different civilizations throughout history, from the ancient Jews, through the Romans, Byzantines, Muslims, and even the Crusaders. Everyone recognized the sanctity of this place. But what really hides beneath this sanctuary? Some believe that the cave was never truly explored in depth, as access to it was restricted for centuries. What could be hidden beneath the layers of stone? Could there be physical records, bones, or artifacts that confirm the identity of those buried there? Modern archaeology tries to answer these questions, but not everything is so simple. Underground investigations in the Hebron area indicate that there are hidden chambers beneath the tomb of the patriarchs, but access to them remains a major challenge for religious and political reasons. However, pottery fragments, ancient inscriptions, and even foundations of ancient buildings indicate that this area has been inhabited and revered for at least 4,000 years. This means that Hebron may be one of the oldest cities still in continuous existence in the world. But is this enough to prove that Abraham really lived there? Or are there more mysteries waiting to be revealed? Another curious point is that Hebron was mentioned again in the time of Moses. When spies were sent to explore the Promised Land, as reported in Numbers 13:22, they passed through Hebron and described it as a land inhabited by descendants of the ancient giants, the Anakim. This raises a fascinating question. Was the Hebron of Abraham's time the same Hebron of Moses' time? And if so, what happened to the city during those centuries? Could it be possible that traces of the ancient civilization of the Anakites are still buried there waiting to be discovered? The truth is that Hebron remains a living mystery. What we have are fragments of a story that intertwines with faith, tradition, and science. Some archaeologists argue that the exact location of biblical Hebron may have changed over the millennia, while others believe that the modern city rests exactly on Abraham's ancient Hebron. But there is something undeniable. This city has survived empires, wars, and dominations, and remains one of the most sacred places in the world to this day. And this leads us to an even deeper question. If so many of the cities mentioned in the Bible are being rediscovered and confirmed by archaeology, are we getting closer to definitive proof of the biblical accounts? What else could be hidden beneath the ruins of Hebron? Will we one day finally be allowed to explore the depths of the world, tomb of the patriarchs, and find something that will change history forever? Now I want to know your opinion. Do you believe that Hebron is really the city where Abraham lived? Or do you think there is still a greater discovery needed to prove this? Leave here in the comments what you think. Write Hebron revealed if you believe we are close to a great discovery, or there are still mysteries if you think that the history of this city still holds secrets that we don't know about. I really want to know what you think, and don't forget, this is just the beginning, because what comes next will surprise you even more. The discoveries made in Hebron over the years are simply stunning. With each new excavation, archaeologists come across evidence that reinforces the antiquity and importance of this city. But do these findings really prove that Hebron was Abraham's home? Can we say with certainty that we are stepping on the same stones that the patriarch walked on thousands of years ago? Archaeology has given us fascinating answers, but it has also raised new questions that challenge our understanding of biblical history. Researchers have been investigating this region for decades, and archaeological finds reveal a history that dates back to time immemorial. Ruins of ancient buildings, mysterious inscriptions, ceramic fragments, and metal artifacts indicate that Hebron was inhabited by different civilizations over the centuries. One of the most intriguing points is the discovery of fortifications dating back to the Bronze Age, precisely the period in which Abraham would have lived. These structures suggest that Hebron was already an established and well-protected city at that time, a center of great importance for the region's ancient civilizations. One of the most intriguing discoveries was made by Israeli archaeologists, who identified traces of buildings that appear to correspond to biblical descriptions of Hebron. The deeper layers revealed stone foundations, possibly belonging to patriarchal-era buildings. Furthermore, ceramics and utensils found in these excavations point to a continuous occupation of the region for thousands of years. This means that, regardless of urban changes and reconstructions, Hebron has always been a strategic and sacred point for ancient people. Another extremely relevant find was a series of ancient inscriptions that mention Hebron. Some of these inscriptions were found on fragments of clay tablets, suggesting that the city was already known and recognized by other neighboring civilizations. Furthermore, researchers found evidence of an ancient system of underground tunnels and cisterns, which reinforces the idea that Hebron had an advanced infrastructure for the time. But what draws scholars' attention most are the connections between these discoveries and biblical accounts. The Bible describes Hebron as a place of great spiritual and historical significance. If it really existed in the times of Abraham, this would confirm that the events narrated in Genesis have a real basis and are not merely symbolic. The question is, to what extent can these archaeological discoveries be considered concrete proof of the existence of the city of Abraham? Some researchers argue that although the finds confirm Hebron's antiquity, there is still no direct, unquestionable evidence linking the remains to Abraham specifically. But does this mean the search is over? No way. One of the most intriguing aspects of this investigation is the connection between the Cave of Machpelah and the city's historical records. The tomb of the patriarchs, where Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, Rebekah, Jacob, and Leah are believed to be buried, has been a pilgrimage site for millennia. The site is mentioned not only in the Bible, but also in ancient texts from different cultures, which suggests that its importance was recognized by different civilizations throughout history. But does this tomb really house the remains of the biblical patriarchs? This is one of the biggest unanswered questions in biblical archaeology. Unfortunately, access to the interior of the cave has been extremely restricted. Historical accounts indicate that very few people were allowed to explore its interior, and many of these expeditions took place centuries ago. What is known is that there are underground chambers beneath the visible structure, and some evidence suggests that these spaces may contain crucial information about the true history of Hebron. However, due to political and religious conflicts, deeper excavations at the site are practically impossible. But imagine what could be revealed if we one day have the opportunity to fully explore this region. Another fascinating point is that, in addition to the buildings and inscriptions, ritual artifacts were found that may indicate religious practices similar to those described in the Bible. For example, archaeologists have identified ancient altars and ceremonial objects that suggest the site was used as a cult center by different peoples. This leads us to an even deeper question. Was Hebron always a sacred place, even before the arrival of Abraham? Or was its presence there one of the factors that made this city so significant throughout history? With each new discovery, more evidence emerges that Hebron has deep roots in antiquity, but archaeology is still far from unraveling all its mysteries. Scholars continue to explore historical records, analyze remains, and try to connect the pieces of this enormous puzzle. But there is something we cannot ignore. The city of Hebron is not just a place of historical importance, but a living symbol of biblical faith and tradition. Archaeology gives us clues, but the definitive answers are often still hidden beneath layers of earth and stone. However, if there is one thing that history has taught us, it is that mysteries always find a way to surface. What else could be buried in Hebron? Will we ever discover irrefutable proof of Abraham's presence there? Or will the truth about this city remain an enigma that defies both science and faith? Now I want to know your opinion. Do you believe these findings are strong enough to prove that Hebron was the home of Abraham? Or do you think there is still a lack of definitive evidence? Leave your comment below and write, Hebron confirmed, if you believe that the evidence is already sufficient or there are still mysteries, if you think this city still hides secrets that need to be revealed. I really want to know what you think about this subject. And stay tuned, because what comes next could change your view of biblical history forever. The Cave of Machpelah is, without a doubt, one of the greatest mysteries in biblical archaeology. This sacred place is mentioned in the Bible as the first piece of land acquired by Abraham in the Promised Land, a place where he buried his wife, Sarah, and which, according to the scriptures, also houses the remains of Isaac, Rebekah, Jacob, and Leah. The importance of this place transcends archaeology and history, becoming one of the most revered points of the three great monotheistic religions: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. But does this cave really hold the patriarchs' remains? Does historical and archaeological evidence confirm this ancient tradition? Or does Machpelah's cave hide something even more mysterious? Currently, the structure that protects the Cave of Machpelah is the so-called Tomb of the Patriarchs, an imposing stone building that stands out in the heart of Hebron. This construction, impressive for its solidity and antiquity, was built by King Herod in the 1st century BC, a detail that in itself raises intriguing questions. Why would Herod, a Roman ruler, invest so much in preserving this site if it did not have deep historical significance? The fact that this structure has survived intact for more than 2,000 years reinforces the idea that the site has always been treated as sacred and worthy of veneration. But what really lies beneath this construction? And will we ever have access to the truth that is hidden there? The Bible describes in detail Abraham's negotiation with the Hittites to acquire the cave. In Genesis 23, we read that Abraham purchased the site from a man named Ephron the Hittite for 400 shekels of silver. This account is not just a story of land acquisition, but a milestone in the patriarch's journey towards God's promise. This event is significant because it marks the first legitimate possession of a piece of the promised land by a Hebrew, something that echoes throughout the biblical narrative as a symbol of divine covenant. But despite this very detailed description, there have never been excavations that confirmed the existence of tombs or remains inside the cave. And this is where the mystery deepens even further. Accessing the underground cave has been one of the biggest challenges faced by researchers. It is believed that no one has entered the deepest part of the site for centuries. During the Middle Ages, reports indicate that travelers and religious people tried to explore the interior of the cave, but were prevented from doing so or found only empty chambers. Some historical documents suggest that there is a second hidden chamber beneath the current structure, a space that may never have been opened since ancient times. This means that if Abraham's remains are indeed there, they could be hidden in an as-yet inaccessible location, preserved for thousands of years. Another intriguing issue is the fact that, throughout history, several civilizations dominated Hebron, and all, without exception, treated the Cave of Machpelah with deep respect. From the Romans to the Muslims, passing through the Byzantines and Crusaders, no one dared to destroy this place or desecrate it. This reinforces the theory that something very important is hidden there. But what exactly? Would it be definitive proof of the existence of the patriarchs? Could there be artifacts, documents, or inscriptions that directly connect this place to Abraham? Or perhaps even traces that would change our understanding of the origins of monotheistic faith? Despite all this importance, archaeological excavations in the region are extremely limited. The site is surrounded by religious and political tensions, making in-depth scientific studies almost impossible. Many believe that if one day the Machpelah cave is opened and analyzed by experts, we could be faced with the greatest archaeological discovery of all time. But will this truth be revealed in our time? Or will the secrets of Hebron remain hidden for centuries more? What makes everything even more intriguing are the historical reports that indicate that, on some occasions over the centuries, small accesses to the interior of the cave were made. Some of these expeditions reported the existence of underground passages that could lead to unknown chambers. But these accesses were quickly closed, and the location remains shrouded in mystery. What do these passages hide? Could they be secret corridors built to preserve something priceless? Or would they just be natural formations that have nothing to do with the biblical accounts? These questions remain unanswered. The most fascinating thing about all of this is that, regardless of what is actually hidden there, the tomb of the patriarchs remains one of the holiest places on earth. Thousands of pilgrims visit the site every year, pray, make requests, and try to connect with the faith that has been passed down for generations. And this connection with the past is what keeps the search for truth alive. If archaeology has already managed to reveal so many secrets hidden throughout history, are we getting closer to unraveling the mysteries of Machpelah's cave? Now I want to know your opinion. Do you believe that the cave really holds the remains of Abraham and his family? Or do you think this mystery still needs to be investigated further? Leave your comment below and write Machpelah revealed if you believe that the truth about this place will be discovered one day, or untouched mystery if you think that the secrets of this tomb will never be fully revealed. I really want to know what you think about this subject. And stay tuned, because what comes next may bring even more stunning revelations about this sacred city. The city of Hebron, as we know it today, is one of the oldest in the world, with a continuous history of habitation dating back thousands of years. But is this city that we see today exactly the same one in which Abraham lived? Or could it be that, over the centuries, Hebron changed location, was rebuilt elsewhere, or even covered up by the layers of time? This is one of the questions that most intrigue historians and archaeologists, because if the city underwent drastic changes, this could mean that there are still hidden traces of the true biblical Hebron waiting to be discovered. We know that Hebron is mentioned in the Bible as a place of great spiritual and historical importance. In Genesis, it appears as the place where Abraham settled after separating from Lot, and where he acquired the cave of Machpelah to bury Sarah. However, the city continues to be mentioned in other crucial moments in Scripture. During the time of Moses, when spies were sent to explore the Promised Land, the Bible reports that Hebron was already a well-established city inhabited by the Anakim, a people described as giants. But if the city was already inhabited by these powerful people, what would have been the real location of the Hebron that Abraham knew? Did he live exactly in the same place where modern Hebron stands today? Or was his home in another nearby area? Over the centuries, Hebron has been conquered, destroyed, rebuilt, and modified countless times. Canaanite, Hebrew, Assyrian, Babylonian, Greek, Roman, Byzantine, Arab, and even Crusader rulers passed through this city, leaving their marks on the landscape and possibly altering the original location of the biblical city. But what does this mean for archaeology? If the city of Abraham does not correspond exactly to the modern city, this means that the remains of its time may be buried under another layer of land, or even in a different location than the current city. This possibility has led some archaeologists to search for older ruins in nearby regions, in an attempt to identify structures that could date back to patriarchal times. The discovery of ancient stone foundations and pottery fragments dating back to the Bronze Age strengthens the idea that Abraham's Hebron may be buried beneath more recent layers of the city. Ancient maps of the region suggest that Hebron may have undergone topographical changes over the millennia, especially due to destruction caused by conflict and the need to rebuild on new, higher or more protected ground. Some scholars suggest that parts of the original Hebron may be buried in areas that have not yet been fully explored, or even camouflaged under buildings and structures built in more recent times. Another fascinating detail is that, in David's time, Hebron also played a crucial role. It was there that David was anointed king of Judah and where he ruled for 7 years before establishing his kingdom in Jerusalem. This demonstrates that Hebron continued to be a politically relevant city long after the age of the patriarchs, but David's Hebron was already a fortified and strategically positioned city, which suggests that the city may have undergone major changes since the time of Abraham. Then the big question arises, to what extent does the city that David ruled resemble the city in which Abraham lived? Over the years, archaeologists have looked into this question, trying to connect archaeological evidence with biblical accounts. Fragments of ancient inscriptions mentioning Hebron have been found, proving that the city was already an important center in the ancient world. But do the texts found refer to the same Hebron mentioned in Genesis, or are they referring to a city rebuilt later? The difficulty in obtaining a definitive answer is due to the fact that many older remains may be buried under layers of later civilizations. Additionally, some theories suggest that the real Hebron of Abraham's time may have been a smaller settlement on the outskirts of the current city. As we know, in ancient times it was common for cities to be abandoned and rebuilt in nearby locations, depending on factors such as security, water supply, and weather conditions. This means that the city that Abraham knew may have existed in a slightly different location, and the buildings that we associate with Hebron today may be from much later periods. Archaeology continues to advance, but the truth is that there are still many unanswered questions. If the city of Abraham existed in a different location than we think, it means that there is still much to be discovered beneath the sands of time. Deeper excavations could reveal hidden structures that could completely change our understanding of biblical history. But will these excavations ever be permitted? Could there be something hidden beneath modern buildings that could prove, once and for all, the true location of the biblical Hebron? Or has the original city been completely lost, leaving only traces scattered across the region's historic landscape? Now I want to know your opinion. Do you believe that Abraham's Hebron is still hidden beneath layers of earth and stone waiting to be discovered? Or do you think the city has changed so much over time that we can never be sure of its original location? Leave your comment below and write Lost Hebron if you believe there are still mysteries to be discovered, or Hebron revealed if you think we already have enough information to confirm its authenticity. I'm very curious to know what you think. And stay tuned, because what comes next could change everything we imagine about this sacred city. The Bible gives us several clues about the location and importance of Hebron, but can these reports be confirmed by historical records and science? Or are there still hidden details that could change our understanding of this sacred city? This is one of the most fascinating questions when we talk about the relationship between faith, history, and archaeology. Hebron is not only mentioned in the context of Abraham's life, but appears at various times throughout Scripture, indicating that its relevance has endured for centuries. But to what extent do archaeological findings and historical records support what is written in the Bible? Since ancient times, Hebron has been described as a strategically important city. In the book of Genesis, it is mentioned that Abraham settled in the region of the oak groves of Mamre, which was close to Hebron. This detail is interesting because it indicates that, even at the time of the patriarch, Hebron was already a place of reference, and not just any village. When he purchased the cave of Machpelah to bury Sarah, the Hittites already inhabited the city, which shows that the occupation of the site dates back to even more ancient times. But has archaeology ever found traces that confirm the presence of a settlement at that time? Historical records indicate that Hebron is one of the oldest still inhabited cities in the world, with continuous occupation dating back at least 4,000 years. This means that the modern city actually has its roots in the patriarchal period, which corroborates, in a certain way, the biblical accounts. However, as Hebron was destroyed and rebuilt several times throughout history, many of the oldest remains may be buried beneath layers of later civilizations, making it difficult to directly prove that the city where Abraham lived is exactly the same as the one we know today. Another important time in which Hebron appears in the Bible is during the time of Moses. When spies were sent to explore Canaan, the city was mentioned as a place inhabited by the Anakim, a people described as giants. This suggests that Hebron remained a significant urban center many centuries after the patriarchal era. If the biblical accounts are accurate, this means that Hebron has survived several historical transformations and continuations, which increases the complexity of its archaeological layers. But is there historical evidence about the presence of these giants, or could this description have a different meaning than we interpret it today? Known historical records indicate that in Israelite times, Hebron was already a well-established, walled city. When Joshua conquered Canaan, the city was given to Caleb, one of 2 spies who returned with a positive report of the Promised Land. The Bible mentions that he and his family expelled the Anakim who inhabited Hebron and took possession of the city. This raises an interesting question. If there was a major conflict in the region, has archaeology found evidence of battles, destruction, or abrupt cultural changes that could confirm this story? Archaeologists have found evidence of successive destruction in Hebron over the centuries, which reinforces the idea that the city was the scene of several important historical events. Some pottery fragments and inscriptions found in the region date back to the time of the Judges and King David, suggesting that the city continued to be occupied and fought over during the growth of the Kingdom of Israel. David even ruled Hebron for 7 years before moving his capital to Jerusalem. This indicates that, at some point in history, Hebron ceased to be the political center of Israel, but maintained its religious and cultural relevance. In addition to biblical records, Greek and Roman historians also mentioned Hebron in their writings. The Jewish historian Flavius Josephus, for example, wrote about the city in the 1st century, describing it as a place of great antiquity and importance for the Jewish people. The Romans, when they dominated the region, are believed to have preserved some of Hebron's holy sites, including the Cave of Machpelah, which was later transformed into a site of Christian and Islamic pilgrimage. The relationship between the Bible and history always raises fascinating discussions. Some scientists and historians believe that the biblical accounts were based on real events, but that they were shaped by oral tradition and the cultural contexts of each era. Others argue that archaeological discoveries increasingly reinforce the veracity of biblical accounts. What we know for sure is that with each new excavation, more evidence emerges that connects the Bible to real history. But what else can we discover about Hebron? Are there still buried records that could confirm with absolute certainty that this is the same city where Abraham lived? Or will we never have definitive proof, and this will continue to be one of the great mysteries of biblical archaeology? Now, I want to know your opinion. Do you believe that historical and archaeological evidence is sufficient to confirm the biblical accounts of Hebron? Or do you think there are still more concrete discoveries missing? Write confirmed history if you believe that the Bible has already been validated by science, or hidden mysteries if you think there is still a lot to be discovered. Leave your comment and keep following, because what comes next may reveal even more hidden secrets about this sacred city. If Hebron is indeed the city where Abraham lived, this reinforces the authenticity of the biblical accounts and strengthens the faith of millions of people. For Jews and Christians, archaeological confirmation of this city as the home of the patriarchs would have an immense impact, validating traditions passed down for millennia. But the big question is, do we already have enough evidence, or is there still more to be discovered? The Bible describes Hebron as a crucial place in the history of faith. It was there that Abraham made his home, negotiated the purchase of the Cave of Machpelah, and sealed God's promise about his descendants. If archaeology proves that the modern city is the same as it was in Abraham's time, this would mean that the events described in Genesis are not just symbolic, but concrete historical events. But if future discoveries indicate that the real Hebron is buried elsewhere, it could completely change our understanding of the biblical narrative. History shows us that every time an archaeological discovery confirms a biblical account, the relationship between faith and science strengthens. However, some evidence is still beyond our reach. The Cave of Machpelah, for example, remains largely unexplored due to political and religious restrictions. What is hiding there? Old inscriptions? Artifacts of the patriarchal era? Or perhaps something even more surprising? The fact that so many excavations are prevented only adds to the mystery. If new excavations are carried out in Hebron, we could be faced with the greatest archaeological confirmation of the Bible. But what if there are still buried secrets that could change everything we think we know? What else could be hidden beneath the layers of time? Now I want to know your opinion. Do you believe that Hebron still hides secrets that could impact faith? Write, "Secrets of Hebron," if you think there is still a lot to be revealed, or Hebron. Confirmed. If you believe that we already have enough evidence, comment below and keep following, because what comes next could bring even more surprising revelations about this sacred city. And now, we come to a crucial point in our investigation. Given all this evidence, theories, and discoveries, the question that remains is, does Hebron really keep the remains of the city where Abraham lived? Or does archaeology still have a lot to reveal before we can say this with certainty? What we know so far is fascinating, but also incomplete. Each new excavation, each fragment of pottery found, each structure revealed beneath layers of earth seem to bring us closer and closer to the truth. But there is always something more that remains hidden, as if the story is waiting for the right moment to reveal itself completely. The connection between the Bible and archaeology remains one of the most intriguing topics for historians and scholars of faith. Over the centuries, many cities mentioned in Scripture have been found and studied, some confirmed as authentic centers of ancient civilizations, others still shrouded in mystery. Hebron is on that threshold between what we already know and what still needs to be discovered. If deeper excavations are ever allowed at Machpelah Cave, for example, will we find definitive proof that the biblical patriarchs were buried there? Or will the truth about this sacred city always be shrouded in doubt and supposition? What we do know is that Hebron remains a sacred site, revered by millions of people around the world. Whether due to the biblical accounts, the archaeological evidence already found, or the spiritual meaning it carries, this city has never ceased to be a central point in the history of faith. But is there something even greater to be revealed? What else could be hidden beneath the streets and modern buildings of this ancient city? If we've gotten so many answers so far, imagine what we can discover in the future. I know you've come this far. That means you're also fascinated by the mysteries of the Bible and the incredible discoveries that archaeology can reveal. If this content impacted you and made you reflect on what may still be hidden in Hebron and other holy sites, then subscribe to the channel right now. Here we explore the enigmas of lost biblical places, connect faith with science, and bring you revelations you can't find anywhere. Also, if you watched until the end, I want you to be part of this investigative journey. Comment below, "I'm part of this search," to show that you are with me on the mission to uncover the hidden secrets of the Scriptures. Your comment not only strengthens our community, but also helps this video reach more people who, like you, want to know the truth about the biblical story. And don't forget, activate the bell so you don't miss the next videos, because the next discoveries could be even more surprising. The journey through biblical mysteries continues. If Hebron brought us so many revelations, imagine what could still be hidden in the Promised Land. Do we know the true location of Canaan, or is there something hidden that few have discovered? In the next video, we'll explore surprising evidence that could change everything we know about this sacred territory. Click now and discover, where is the true Canaan? The Promised Land has a hidden secret.